Hello everyone and welcome to Brick Cats. Today I am reviewing Edge of Bricks' Mandalorian N-1 Starfighter. As always, please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment, or supporting what I do in any other way you see fit. I greatly appreciate it. The Mandalorian's modified N-1 first appeared in the Book of Boba Fett, and is likely the only thing anyone cares about from that series at this point, besides, of course, the Whirl. The ship features heavily in the Mandalorian Season 3 trailer, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it in action throughout the season, and if you have not seen the first episode of Season 3, it is amazing. Without any substitutions, Bricklink's algorithm gave me 3 stores and $128 without shipping and tax, or about $152 with shipping and tax, and don't worry, I was able to cut this down significantly. In my reviews, I offer my opinions on aesthetics and model features, parts issues you might want to look out for, the build experience, the model's integrity, and I close out with my overall impression and pricing information in the conclusion. If you're watching this review, I assume that you bought the instructions or are interested in buying them. I also assume a basic level of familiarity with Bricklink's ordering system and LEGO nomenclature. I only use genuine LEGO bricks, and I always purchase the instructions. I create these reviews for my own personal enjoyment, and in the hopes that my advice will make your experience more enjoyable and or less expensive. The Mandalorian N-1 measures 14¼ inches long, 8½ inches wide, and sits about 2½ inches off the stand, and about 5¼ inches on the included stand. This is definitely a little large for minifigure scale, and to be clear, the designer isn't advertising it as such, but overall the proportions look very good to me, and for comparison, here is the Mandalorian minifigure. So minifigure scale or play scale, take your pick. I think this straddles a nice balance. Starting at the nose, the cannons fit in very nicely with the hull. And from the front-on view, you can see that the wings are slightly angled downwards. And this is a detail that I always appreciate being included in N1 mocks, and is something that's sorely lacking in the official LEGO models. Just behind the nose, the front fuselage is shaped very well, and this is the 3x3 tile with the sticker from the official set, and this is definitely a little big for this scale. The designer notes that you could cut this to fit a 2x2 round tile, and that is certainly more accurate. But I chose to raid parts from the official model to make this one, and I thought that that looked pretty good and didn't feel like cutting it. The wings are packed with detail, and these are constructed in a really cool way. Edge of Bricks uses some hinge plates to turn what's normally the straight side of the wedge plates into the angled side, and you can see this best from the underside. So if you can see this here, this is the angled side of the wedge, while this is the flat end. The teeth on the wings are represented with these 1L bars with clips on a 3L bar. I think these look really, maybe a little too large, and perhaps they should be in terms of the depth that they cut into the wing, but this is not an easy section to recreate, and I'm not convinced that a perfect solution exists. I do appreciate that turning the flat edge of the wedge plate into the leading edge of the wing makes this connection possible in the first place, though. Otherwise, the modified plate that holds the subassembly wouldn't connect properly. The two engines are similar but asymmetric, and when I first saw the pictures of this model, I wasn't sold on constructing the engines with slopes just because I generally prefer a more rounded shape. And seeing it in person, it's definitely noticeable, but it's grown on me. And I think it works because it's the only way you get this level of detail into the engines at this scale. And speaking of the detailing, it's done really well and accurately represents the starboard side as having more of the outer covering missing as compared to the port side. The intake and exhaust vents utilize the octagonal modified plate with slopes and clips, as there's no good piece to use in either location that provides a smooth cone. And both sides look just fine to me, as there's also a 2x2 round tile with the rotor pattern inside each intake. There's a bit of engine glow in the back, which looks great, and underneath these little structures are nestled right against the main engine, as they should be. And lastly, on the main engine, I want to point out the small dark red 1x2 round plates that you can just see inside the engines here in the front. which is another great inclusion for accuracy. The main section of the fuselage has some nice detailing with the breaks in the hull on either side. And I think a dark bluish gray vent piece in place of this 1x2 plate right here could represent a very small section of greebling we see in the show. But I also really like how this dark gray band across the front of the cockpit uses reverse clips and a length of hose to get the shaping to match the slopes right in front of it. The cockpit has plenty of room for a pilot without having to remove their jetpack, and it also has some controls as well as the sticker from the official set inside there for the instrument panel. And the sticker obviously isn't essential, but I think it looks really good. And of course, behind is the compartment for Grogu, and he fits inside his bubble very well. Based on the Season 3 trailer, we might have R5 occupying this space, and his head and body should fit there as well. This section in particular is kind of difficult to construct accurately in LEGO, as this bump should actually be a lot smaller, but I do like how Edge of Bricks used the curved wedge pieces to represent the rounded shape of the fuselage, kind of matching that of the cockpit here, and then that intersects with the circular shape for the bubble here. Behind Grogu's compartment, there is a combination of slopes that bring us to easily the most impressive part of this model to me, and funnily enough, that is the tail section. The Mandalorian N-1's tail is challenging to represent well, as it's kind of long and thin, but also mostly hollow, as the outer paneling is mostly missing. Edge of Bricks does this incredibly well with hoses, bars, and clips to make all the angles come together at the back here, and it's pretty much perfect. On the underside, there are a few sections of anti-studs, as you might expect, but mostly it's pretty smooth. And this is a great use of the new windscreen piece on the underside to smooth out the nose section underneath. The booster engine is also built out well and integrated nicely into the shape of the hull with these wedge plates on either side. You saw it a little bit earlier, but the stand is very nice. It holds the fighter at a nice angle. And as you can see, it is adjustable. And I did replace one of the 1x1 tiles with a plate there, just so I could put a minifigure on. And this connects in pretty much any orientation you want. So you can stand it up like this and have it tilted forward or angled upwards. Or you can put it to have the fighter angled from side to side. And adjusting that is very simple. Edge of Bricks' Mandalorian N-1 does an incredible job with the details of the ship in a very nicely sized model. It looks great on its stand, and I'm really looking forward to putting this one in my office. Edge of Bricks' Mandalorian N-1 requires 196 elements and 833 pieces. The Rubricable inventory shows 195 elements and 832 pieces, but I have included the sticker sheet in this count as well, which is Bricklink part number 75325 STK01. The sticker sheet is reasonably inexpensive and widely available, and when I was doing my research for this review, it did not add any stores to my algorithm results, and it usually costs about 75 cents. At the beginning of the instructions, Edge of Bricks notes that the sticker sheet is used, and that he has included the 2x2 round tile, part 14769, on the assumption that you'll cut the sticker. As an alternative, he offers part 14769 PB226, which is a printed tile. However, I think you could get an acceptably close approximation with just a simple tile round 2x2 with hole, part 15535 in light bluish gray. The designer has marked a few elements in standard red in the parts list, and these are hidden in the final build and can thus be any color if you've got a spares bin to search through. In addition to the ones already marked in red, the bracket 3x2 by 1 1/3 with bottom stud holder, part 73562 in black, is hidden right in front of the cockpit, about here, and can be any color. The two slope curved 4x1 inverted part 13547 in light bluish gray are also hidden and can be any color, and these are hidden inside the ventral nose cone underneath here. The plate 2x8 in light bluish gray, part 3034, is hidden in the tail section back here and can be any color. The 2-plate modified 1x2 with bar handle on end, part 60478 in light bluish gray, are hidden and can be any color, and these form the connection point for the ventral nose cone. The brick modified 1x1 with studs on two sides opposite, part 47905 in light bluish gray, is hidden and can be any color, and this piece is right under the connection point for Grogu's little bubble right here. If you have set 75325, there's not a ton of elements in common, but it does save you the trouble of buying what's likely the most expensive piece, and that's that windscreen 6x7 by 1 1/3 in light bluish gray, part 80222, and that's the one on the underside of the nose here. So here is the full list of pieces you can pull from set 75325 and thus mark as have in your wanted list. There are definitely some elements that tend to be more expensive on Bricklink than getting direct from LEGO's Pick-a-Brick service. The following list contains elements that are usually going to be more economical to buy direct, assuming you meet the thresholds for eliminating the handling fees and getting free shipping. With this model, I got the lowest price, adding as much as I could to my Pick-a-Brick cart, but at a minimum, consider buying these directly from LEGO. Finally, there is a 2x2 round brick in trans clear included in the parts list. There's no step in the instructions I could find where this goes, but this is intended as a little stand that goes on the other side of the fighter if you aren't placing the model on the display stand, and the display stand parts are included in the parts list as well. So if you don't plan to display this off the stand, you can omit that piece. This model requires 199 steps, and each part or subassembly you add in a given step is outlined in red against a light blue background. Each page contains 1 or 2 steps, and there's a reasonable number of pieces per step. The pace of the build is good, and in total it took me about 2 hours to complete without any sorting beforehand. I didn't have any issues following the instructions and didn't run into any viewing angle problems. While the tail assembly itself is straightforward enough, putting the hoses through this 1x2 round plate could use an actual measurement as far as how far down to push the plate. And the reason is because this 4L bar right here needs to match up very closely with the plate in step number 80. So if you put the plate too far back, the bar doesn't match up right, and if you put the plate too far forward, there's a little gap between the bar and the plate, and it doesn't look as good. It's also really hard to adjust the position of this plate once you have it on. And on mine, I measured it, and there's about 24 millimeters, or in other words, 3L, the length of a 1x3 plate, from the end of the hose to where the top of the stud of this 1x2 rounded plate should be, and that seems to be pretty much the perfect distance. Other than that, this build is suitable for all but the least experienced builders. If you've successfully completed any of the medium to large scale official LEGO sets, you won't have any problems with this one. Edge of Bricks typically makes very sturdy models, and this one continues that trend. The tail section is obviously a little bit fragile, as all N-1 tails tend to be, but this is a reasonably easy model to pick up and swoosh. If you pick it up and whip it around too hard, you will feel some jiggling in the wings, which do have a little bit of play in them, and this is why I believe the 2x2 trans clear round brick goes underneath. Well, I mean, I know it goes underneath, because if you set the fighter down, you'll notice that the wings kind of flatten out a little bit as the model settles. Might be a little difficult to see. Oh, no, that's pretty good. So you can see the little flecks there, but I don't think they're going to come off. It's just something to note. The engine connections are reasonably strong with solid studs, and they do come off as a unit. There's a little bracket piece right here. And that's the most likely point for the engines to break, so it's pretty easy to put back on. The other issue I've noticed is that sometimes when I'm picking this up, this section right here can come off on either side. Again, very easy to put back on. But since the tendency is to grab it kind of like this, it does happen. I think the stand connection could be a little stronger with 2 hollow studs you see here. Oh, and I guess this is a 1x3 printed tile. I did not notice that. But anyway, with the 2 hollow studs, there's definitely not much clutch strength, and it is a little too easy to take off for my liking, and it just kind of feels soft like most hollow stud connections do. And this is easy to modify to include some solid studs if you want to. And the other thing I thought of is you could probably just add like some kind of jumpers with a 2x3 to get a lot of solid studs to make it very secure. But overall, this model is very durable and will definitely work for casual, if maybe a little bit careful play. I really enjoyed building this model, and Edge of Bricks has done an excellent job recreating the cannon details. The model is fun to build and sturdy enough for play, and the included display stand makes displaying the model very easy. Pricing turned out to be fairly reasonable in the end. Like I said in the beginning, without any substitutions, Bricklink's algorithm gave me 3 stores and $128 without shipping and tax, or about $152 with shipping and tax. With the color substitutions, you save just a little bit, which is to be expected since they aren't very expensive pieces to begin with, but it did knock off a store. So that was 2 stores and $127 without shipping and tax, which would be about $145 with shipping and tax. Utilizing Pick a Brick at the end of February and beginning of March in 2023, 183 of the required elements were available directly from LEGO, and that's a very high proportion, which is awesome, and those parts totaled $85. And this met the thresholds for eliminating the handling fee for both the bestseller and the standard pieces, and also qualified for free shipping. Bricklinking the remaining 13 elements totaled 2 stores and $4 without shipping and tax, or about $14 total. The grand total was therefore $99, which is $53 less than going all through Bricklink. Instructions for this model are available on Rebrickable for €10, or about $10.57 US. There will be a link to the Rebrickable page as well as to the designer's YouTube video. Thanks as always for watching my review of Edge of Bricks' Mandalorian N-1. If you built this model, you have something to share that I left out, or have a question about something I didn't cover, please leave them below in the comments. Remember to leave the video a like, subscribe to the channel, or follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, and I hope to see you back next time.